Good morning, guys. It is Friday, June 14th. I know not everybody has a Friday on a Friday, but for those of us who are celebrating the end of the work week, congratulations on making it this far. We're running down some of the top stories you're talking about today. A couple headlines I want to run over on our website. There's a mansion fire near the Woodlands that completely destroyed the home. A crazy story about a man who kidnapped his stepdaughter, took her to Mexico, fathered 9 kids with her. And then another story that's trending from KHRU.com is the valedictorian story we talked about yesterday. So for more information, you can pop over there. I'm going to dive right in, though, to a story that developed overnight. Remember, we talked about the low bonds for what the police chief calls repeat violent offenders. Well, one of the guys he was talking about got arrested overnight. So this is 21-year-old Anthony Conway. He is being held without bond. This is his court appearance, I think around 7 o'clock this morning. He's accused of killing a beloved taco truck owner back on June 6th, gunning him down outside a convenience store where he'd stopped on his way home. That taco truck owner is Enrique Ramirez Ayala. He was 49, very popular. And after his death, once Conway was identified as a suspect, the police chief came out and said he was frustrated because offenders like Conway were allowed back out on the street. So we have shown you many of his mugshots. One of his past crimes, he shot a man in the head twice. That man survived miraculously, but he pleaded down to a lower charge. So he's been out on the streets, but now the judge in that hearing said no bond. So he will not be going back out on the streets. But this whole debate, the chief's talk of bond amounts, and calling out judges. The Houston Police Officers Union has done the same thing on Twitter. Some of the judges are not particularly happy about that. Here's what Judge Franklin Bynum had to say.
The jury pool of the greater county is, tainted by statements about individual cases by police or prosecutors. Yeah, I do think that it is a danger to the fairness and the integrity of the whole system.
So that's one opinion. We've heard a lot from you guys, but you can weigh in the comments here. Let us know what you think. Is the system flawed? Is it working how it's supposed to? What do you think? We're going to jump to the town of Bill. Is it Leander, Texas?
Leander?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. It's Leander, Texas. This is actually video from Houston. You might remember we had drag queen story time here. It was canceled by the original organizers, and earlier this spring, the Houston Public Library said it would bring it back, but we can't find any details about when these events might happen. Anyway, a similar event was planned in Leander, which is northwest of Austin. So it was planned to happen in the library, then the library canceled it. So now a church has rented a room in the library to host it, and the library is shutting down because it's afraid of disruptions during the event. So the library, besides the room, will be closed to the public. The city is not real happy about this because the mayor released a statement saying the library is run by a company contracted by the city, and that company chose to wade into social issues without approval from city staff. So basically saying the company decided to cancel this event without the city's permission, and now it's created a whole discussion about divisiveness and our inability, it seems, to really work or understand people with differing viewpoints. Here's the thing, drag queen story time, you don't have to go. You can go if you want. Like the mayor points out, if it had been storytelling time about the life of Donald Trump or about the story of guns in America, it might not appeal to everybody, but you don't have to go. So that's kind of the approach. And I know we've put out the call to our assignment desk here to find out what the update is in Houston, because a lot of you are clicking from that story to our website and all the stories that we've done in the past. The reason that organizers here dropped out, the original organizers, is because one of the storytellers, one of the readers, was a child sex offender, and Houston Public Library admitted that they hadn't done any background checks. So that's no doubt something that they're going to be doing going forward to prevent anything like that from happening in the future. But you can weigh in on that one too. And now we're going to move on to Father's Day, because it's 2 days away. Happy Father's Day, a little early to all of you dads out there. So we asked for the best advice that your dad has given you. Please share yours in the comments. Investor Dad says, my favorite from his dad: when you become a father, you will have two choices. You can either be a good example or a horrible warning. Choose the good example. That is awesome advice. I'm going to show you a couple different ones we've got that have come in today. Alan's dad told him, don't be too quick to judge people. He says his dad could find something to admire in most people, even if they weren't a working son of a gun. The ultimate compliment, maybe they would fight a circle saw. I like that. Your dad sounds pretty colorful, Alan. Doug says, my dad always told me, if you're going to do something, do it right. I think that's the message a lot of us got from our parents. And they're responding to a story I told about my dad that I'll share in just a moment. H-Town Wiggy says his dad gave him advice to never burn your bridges. He was right. I've been in my business for 25 years and still follow my dad's advice. That's a good one. No matter how tempted you may be, don't burn those bridges. So the story that I shared this morning, it wasn't really advice so much as just a story. So when I was in 6th grade, I tried to run track. I am very short. It was not a good idea. That is the only year I ever did track. And you got to pick your heats, right? So you're going to run with your friends. Well, all my friends were tall and fast and ended up being like state champion sprinters. So here I am running the 100 meters, right? It's not a long race. They're already done. And I'm like halfway done. I see my dad on the side of the track and I run off to him. And that is the moment in my life when he was the most disappointed in me. He lectured me about never quitting. And anytime I thought about it going forward, anytime I felt overwhelmed or felt like the world was too much or there was too much pressure or I couldn't do something, all he had to tell me was, that clock is still running. That clock is still running. And it always got me back on track. What's funny is he's not allowed to say it anymore, because in 2007, I ran a marathon without training. It was a bad idea. Most of my running escapades are bad ideas, but I do them anyway. So I'm at mile 22, and I'm going to quit because it hurts. And my dad joins me on the race. He walked with me for a little bit because at that point, let's be real, I was walking. And we struck a deal. I said, if I finish this thing, if I go the other 4.2 miles, you can't say that ever again. And I finished, and now he can't. So but I still remember it. I don't even need him to tell me anymore. When I am overwhelmed or anything, I just think about that. The clock's still running. Don't quit. I want to talk about the Saharan Dust. Sorry, I got very distracted thinking about I love my dad very much. And my mom, but it's dad's weekend. So I'm going to show you a video from the last time we had a bout of Saharan Dust. Remember, isn't this fun? Where you can't breathe, you can't go outside, your eyes just water and burn. We may not get it this bad, but there is another batch of Saharan Dust headed our way. It's going to start to sprinkle in today. Tomorrow, about midday, you're going to see it getting a little extra hazy. The good news is we're not going to have to live with this for very long, because we're supposed to get some showers this weekend. That'll knock it back. So Father's Day, it's like give or take. You can either have Saharan Dust or showers. You pick. Well, actually, you don't get to pick. Mother Nature does. But hopefully you like whatever she gives you. As far as the weather forecast for this weekend, it's going to be low 90s to mid 90s, really humid, hazy, chance of showers. You can check that out on khou.com/weather if you want a little more detail. So let's see what you guys are saying, shall we? This is like when I'm most excited and also most nervous, because you never quite know if the computer's going to work. You never quite know what some people are going to say. You know who you are. All right, what are they talking about, Jaime?
People are particularly interested in the Conway case, and they're happy that he's being held without bond. So as opposed to what had been happening before, having his bond lowered and then being able to be out in the streets and end up being charged with another crime.
Yeah, I think there would have been a lot more backlash if he had gotten a low bond and been able to get out. I mean, remember when we were talking about the Malia Davis case, Darian Vance, his bail was initially set at about $1 million, and a judge came back and lowered it to $45,000, and people were furious. I mean, he wasn't charged with capital murder. He was charged with tampering with evidence. He hasn't made bond. He's still in jail. But I think a lot of people worry that there was the potential, when you're talking about $45,000 versus $1 million, more opportunity to get out.
Yes. We're also getting, a fair amount of comments on kind of, for and against on both sides of the on the debate when it comes to the drag queen story time.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was such a very big issue and talker here amongst our viewers. It always got a lot of response, when there was news about the event itself, and now we're seeing it, near Austin again. So, kind of making headlines. It's really interesting to kind of see just the different views that people are expressing on it.
Yeah, let's keep it polite and respectful. I haven't seen any of the posts, but that's always a good note for any topic. Oh, I think I can see some. Oh. No, I can't. Susan asks if we're going to be covering the trial. Which trial? You're talking about Conway or Malia? What? We usually, if a high-profile case escalates to trial, if it makes it to that point, then we will cover it. Especially in I assume you're asking about the Malia Davis story?
I'm guessing, I'm not sure what case she's asking about, but I guess, sometimes I think people are referring to, will we be live streaming, the trial? And that sometimes often depends on the judge themselves, what access they are granting the media.
Oh, she's asking about Conway. Yes, if it gets to that point. We will certainly have coverage, but as Jaime was explaining, maybe not live streaming it. That's not always an option. It's at the discretion of judges a lot of times.
Yeah. Let's see what else.
I'm not seeing, it's showing that there are 40 comments. It just won't let me see them.
See them all.
Any advice from dads?
That's one thing I wanted to kind of chime in on, I guess, is that, I always got so much advice from my father, and and they're always very kind of short to the point. I mean, both my dad and my mom always stressed being polite and being courteous. But one of the things that has really paid off in this job, I guess, that really resonated with me, something he told me, is that it only takes a moment of carelessness for something bad to happen, and it always comes up all the time, whether if you're not paying attention to what you're doing. It could be out there on the road, it could be on the workplace, it could be at home, wherever you're at. And it's just that message always kind of resonated with me, because usually most of the mistakes I've made in my life are usually ones that I just wasn't paying attention just for a little bit. So
yeah. Margaret calls this the most disjointed news show she's seen in a while. We just kind of wing it. This is all about having a conversation with you guys, the stories that you seem to be the most interested in. And unlike a typical newscast, they don't really flow together, if that makes sense. Hard to tie Saharan Dust and low bond amounts together. So we just wing it, like you have a conversation with a friend whose mind always jumps like 4 steps. That's what we're doing here. But I appreciate you tuning in. Regina, thank you. Should we wrap it up?
Yeah, I think
they're probably going to start. I do want to plug. We're about to have live coverage of the procession, right? For
Yes.
Chief Chris Reed, Kemah Police Chief, who passed away last week. So we will stream coverage of the procession. Are we doing his service as well?
Yes, the service starts at 10 a.m. and we will be live streaming that. We will be going live before that to kind of show people arriving. they're paying their respects, and then we will be showing the procession afterwards.
So if you're interested, tune in, keep an eye out for that. Otherwise, we'll be back here with another news update at 2:15. I won't see you then, but have a great weekend. Happy Father's Day.